I'm Tom Browning and we're here in Atelier Gallery, Leiston, Suffolk. It is the inaugural show for both myself and the gallery. The subject for my work is based mostly around the notion of human hybrids within human folklore and human culture. This idea that the human hybrid itself is this metaphor for the darker aspects of the human condition. At the end of my undergraduate year, I was starting to consider where I would go on to after university. Desmond, my tutor, introduced me to Lawrence Edwards at his foundry. The foundry is based in Halesworth, this small market town in Suffolk. One of very few privately owned artist-led foundries in the UK. And it was always on the back burner, in the back of my mind, that that's where I want to be, that's the environment I need to set myself. And so years later, at the end of my master's degree, I was found myself again thinking, where am I going to go on to now? And I thought, this is now the time I have to get a spot at that foundry. December 2021, I started working for Lawrence and I've never looked back since. I find that it's not normally myself dictating the process, it's normally a 50-50 swing where I'll have an idea and as I'm working with it, the material will sort of inform me of how it should be positioned. I'll start off with, I'll have a clear silhouette for what this new being is going to be. At which point, I like to think this negotiation begins between myself and the work. This is Moon. Moon is one of my earliest bronze pieces. It was the second one I ever cast. Moon's quite important on a personal level. It's a very significant piece of work for myself, as it was at this time that I was starting to find my confidence with the material and the processes. So from Moon, it was the evolving points where my process and my practice actually developed into where it is now, where I have that confidence, I have this trust in the material, where I can now make informed negotiations between me and the work itself to create these new hybrid beings. Upon reflections, my most recent piece of work, it was cast only 2 months ago. It's, the notion behind this figure is that it's quite an ambivalent figure. There's this emotional storm within inside himself where he's struggling between a very civilised nature and a more primal nature. At this point, we don't know as the viewer what decision he's made, whether to stick to this civilised path or this very bestial, primal driven path. So he has made a decision, but he's overcome and subdued by the weight of his decision. Precipice has been a figure that I've returned to several times throughout my practice. And so what we have here is a figure that's desperate to take flight. However, we know from this mottled flying contraption that he's created that his first flight is going to be in vain. So we have him stood on the precipice, the cliff's edge, ready to jump off. But once it was finished, it became very obvious to myself that actually no, his flight is doomed. It's more in kin with the ground, the cliff it is about to jump from. And although I feel that this has become a very strong part of my practice, it's one that I feel I need to take further. I need to build on this narrative and this journey that I have with this piece in particular. I feel is going to take me for quite a while until I fully resolve and develop this idea. The next step in my practice, the development of my work, is to start exploring scale. So primarily, I feel I need to begin to scale up my work, whether that be work that is more outdoor pieces and how they hold their environment. But in the meantime, I will still be continuing to develop my ideas and building this narrative, my folklore, around existing folk beings.